And good morning, everybody. Welcome back once again to Planet Hog, my planet, your planet, our planet. But mostly my planet, and definitely not Bill Maher's planet. Speaking of Bill Maher, so I don't know if you are all familiar with his latest tweet. I don't know, because I guess Twitter is it's still somewhat unexplored as far as social media applications go. But anyway, for those of you who are on Twitter and would like to get more, just more of my daily bread, and of course, why wouldn't you? That is at Forever Hog. Forever HOGG. That's me. So, anyway, Bill Maher made a post, really just a recording from his show, where he was basically pleading with both sides of the political aisle to not allow relations to decay to the point where we engage in outright armed conflict, also known as civil war. And it was a I will include a link to Bill Maher's pitiful cry. It was it was half-assed in my opinion, because one of the things that he said was, we're a family, and a family is a group of people that hate each other but still live together and still coexist. And I think that jaded definition of a word that most people hold near and dear to their hearts kind of encapsulates liberals in America. Number one, that they really don't hold anything near or dear. And number two, just promulgating this feeling of dysfunction, kind of just continuing to perpetuate dysfunction as a normality, right? Not to fix the dysfunction, but to just say, no, this is normal and we need to live with this. Now, you can obviously attach several of their agendas to that statement I just said about perpetuating dysfunctional behavior and attempting to normalize it. But that is not what this episode is for. I will take another sip of this here Red Bush whiskey. Man, it is good. It is very good. I'm gonna have to get some more. Anyhow, so yeah, he had that going on, and it's funny to me. Number one, for those of us who are paying attention, right? Because you can kind of divide the sides into a number of things, right? They said it's the Trumpians versus the liberals. Okay, on the surface, but if you want to go to particular group categorizations, it's the libertarians versus the totalitarians. It's the informed versus the uninformed. And piggybacking on that last point, the informed versus the uninformed, the Matrix really is the more accurate, in my opinion, literary representation of the times we're living in. Not so much 1984. Yeah, there are aspects of 1984, but the Matrix really is it. Because for a lot of people who have kind of done their own research outside of just turning on CNN, because a lot of people, that's their research, turning on MSNBC, turning on CNN, turning on MSNBC, turning on CNN. And when they get a wild hair up their ass, it's New York Times or Vox, right? So, and they're like, okay, well, yeah, I've got a grasp on what's going on. Well, to those people, I would say this, and I have said this to a couple of my friends, and I'm kind of digressing off the point I was making, but this will be quick. I would say this: take everything that your news outlets are telling you about how the election is progressing, and please recall everything they've told you about how well Joe Biden's doing, and then consider and weigh that against the actual results. And when your world shatters again, don't get upset. Take that as a revelation that the news sources with which you are consuming your information are not true. They're not giving you good information. Anyway, that aside, back to the Bill Maher thing. It really is amazing how much of a laggard a lot of these talk shows, these political commentary shows that are supposed to be funny, how far behind they are. You know, it kind of reminds me of when I was in the Air Force. I was on a tail swap. We went to Greece, and me and my boy, we went to this club in Greece, and they were bopping like old school '90s hip hop, like LL Cool J, like stuff like that. It was like stepping in a time warp. Like they loved The Simpsons and Homer, and they were really big on Homer Simpson over there at the time we were over there. So, and you come over here and Simpsons are okay, but most people were on Family Guy at that time. This is roughly, at this point, maybe 7 years ago. So, but it's kind of cool to kind of step back into that and be like, damn, this is where you guys are. That's kind of where these shows are, and that's kind of where the media is. And Bill Maher is an example of that. The fact that he is just now trying to de escalate this is the equivalent of flooring a muscle car towards the edge of the cliff. And then as you're approaching the edge of that cliff, you slam on the brakes. Well, what's going to happen? You're going to fuck your brakes up for sure. You're going to tear up whatever is underneath of you. But that car's momentum it's reached its, I don't know if terminal velocity is actually applicable here, but the velocity with which it's moving is not going to be stopped by your last minute decision. And that's kind of how I feel about the culture of America right now. Bill Maher has been one of the people at the forefront of perpetuating Trump derangement syndrome and essentially radicalizing liberals by casting Donald Trump in a light that is, well, universally disavowed, i.e., a racist, i.e., a fascist, i.e., an anti Semite, i.e., by painting him as this villain of all villains, naturally the people watching it are going to become emotionally invested, especially when that's the currency you deal in. And it is the currency they deal in on liberal networks. It's all about how they feel. It's all about, interpretation, subjective interpretations. It's very seldom about cold, hard facts. So, I guess this is him. I don't know what this is. Maybe him saving face. Maybe him trying to admit that he's wrong without actually having to admit he's wrong. I don't know what it is. But it's amazing to me how behind the left is. And these are the people who swear up and down that they're the smartest people in the room at all times. So anyway, that's that. That's not what I want to talk to you about today. Today I want to talk to you about hockey. That's right, hockey. Hockey. Something that I'm interested in getting into. I've gone to two hockey games in my lifetime. One was an Orlando Solar Bears hockey game, and it was awesome. Sat pretty much on the glass, maybe a couple of rows back, but it was a rivalry game. There weren't a lot of people there. It's cool in that place, so I'm not sweating. Beer's usually cheap. And it was a good game. It was a good game between two rivals, and they ended up fighting, and there was blood on the ice. It was great. I really enjoyed it, which is amazing to me that you're allowed to fight in hockey, but in no other sport. The sport where you have literal, you're walking around, you're skating on what is basically a knife. You have two knives and a giant stick, and you're allowed to fight. Football, they are completely clad from head to toe, not allowed to fight. Got it. All right. Anyway, so there was a nice fight. Small little goalie goes up and just like swings off on this dude who was pretty much punking the other side. He was kind of like their goon. And a lot of the guys really, as I was watching it, a lot of the guys on the Solar Bears team, they really wanted no parts of this guy. I was really enjoying it. It was an interesting little story that was unfolding. So I went there, had a great time. And then I also went to maybe, maybe a year and some change ago. Actually, probably about this time last year, I went to a Florida Panthers game with some friends just because we were bored and we had nothing better to do. So we just got some tickets and went to the Florida Panthers game and sat up in the nosebleeds, and it was boring. It was unbelievably boring. So maybe you have to find the happy medium with that. But anyway, this is about a young man by the name of Mitchell Miller. And for those of you who are not familiar, the NHL recently had their draft, and Mitchell Miller was drafted in the fourth round, which I'm assuming is pretty high. Not really very familiar with hockey as of yet, but using football standards, that's high. Using baseball standards, that's really high. So I'm assuming hockey falls somewhere in there. Especially because it's a farm sport. Like, a lot of these guys usually have to spend some time in some kind of farm system before they kind of move on up. But anyway, this young man was drafted, and he has recently been, I guess, released. I don't know if you how you would call that. They dishonored the drafting of him because they dug into his past and found a couple of things that were not so savory. So, without further ado, our article today comes from USA Today Sports. And the headline reads, former Arizona Coyotes draft pick Mitchell Miller no longer on North Dakota hockey team. Mitchell Miller, the Coyotes' fourth round pick in this year's NHL draft, whom the team cut ties with on Thursday, is no longer part of the North Dakota hockey team. The school released a statement from President Andrew Armacost Friday announcing a mutual decision between the school, the team, and Miller's family to have Miller leave the team. A mutual decision between, yeah, his family said, yeah, you know what, that's right. My son shouldn't play the sport that he's really good at and got drafted by it. Yeah, okay. It was mutual. It was definitely mutual. It was as mutual as, well, never mind. Mutual decision between the school, the team, Miller's family, have Miller the team. Which is traditionally one of the most successful college hockey programs in the nation with a history of developing future NHL players. Bet you didn't know that. North Dakota. North Dakota. All right. The announcement by North Dakota on Friday and the Coyotes on Thursday come following Monday's Arizona Republic examination into Miller's harassment of a developmentally disabled, wait for it, African American classmate 4 years ago in Sylvania, Ohio, when Miller's, this was a typo, when Miller's was 14. Miller is a freshman at North Dakota and it appears his scholarship will be honored. All right. Miller issued a court-mandated apology after proof was provided of his behavior in police reports, but showed a lack of remorse toward the family of the victim, according to the Republic report. I'm going to stop right there. I try to get through these before I start editorializing, but some of these things just hit me because this is actually the first time I'm reading this all the way through. So, number one, let's talk about this idea of a court mandated apology. Maybe you missed the actual purpose of an apology. Now, I am not someone who puts stock in an apology. I really don't see the purpose of it. I see apologies as selfish acts. For example, if you, I don't know, wrong me in some way. You step on my toes, let's just use that. That's innocuous enough. You step on my toes. I look at you, you say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Well, obviously you're apologizing for some kind of infraction, whether it was impeding on my personal space, whether it was some kind of physical damage or ill that I suffered, maybe you scuffed my shoes. Either way, my shoes are scuffed. Either way, you impeded my personal space. So the act is done. It's a fait accompli. The apology is completely. What does that do? What does that change? It does not undo anything you just did. You're just trying to make yourself feel better about what you just did to me. And now I become the asshole if I don't allow you to feel better about you wronging me. Okay. Yeah, I've never really put much stock in it. I get it has social utility and social currency, and perhaps I'm being a little jaded Fine, all valid points, but that's just how I feel about apologies. Now we can take that idea and transpose upon it the fact that the court is telling you to do it. So I guess we can completely disavow any ideas of remorse, right? Because if someone's making you apologize, number one, they're robbing you of the right to, in your own self-realization, make the situation right. If you're one of those people who put stock in it, but on top of that, they've completely shit on the whole thing because now the offended party knows that it's court mandated, so they're already kind of, we'll say, jaded towards your apology, right? Why would I accept your apology? The court's making you do it. Okay. I don't like this, but showed a lack of remorse toward the family of the victim, according to the Republic report. What did he do that showed a lack of remorse? And again, there should be some kind of hyperlink here that I can click that takes me to the act. Did he say he was sorry and then give him the bird? Okay. Did he say he was sorry and then, punched a mother in the vagina? Okay. But is this some reporter that's editorializing because they don't like him now? Because that's what that seems like to me. This is somebody on the outside, a third party, deciding that he wasn't remorseful, which liberals have a very, very strong penchant for doing. Okay. 4 years later, the Coyotes selected him in this year's NFL draft despite knowledge of his past and other teams' avoidance of Miller. His selection was widely criticized by many in the hockey community. Yeah, many in the hockey community. That means Twitter, especially after Miller's offenses came to light. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and that is the end of the article. Now I'm going to flash over to, this is another USA Today article. Man, they're all over this guy. This is another USA Today article that details the nature of the young man's offense. And obviously, I will include both of these articles down in the description box. So the title of this article is Coyotes' top draft pick Mitchell Miller was convicted of bullying black, of course the B is capitalized, mentally disabled teen for 4 years ago. And the article reads, the Coyotes last month boasted about having their chief executive selected to an elite National Hockey League committee that pledged to stop racism. It's already getting off on the wrong foot. Okay. That pledged to stop racism. But the team spent its first draft pick on an 18-year-old who was admitted to bullying an African-American classmate with developmental disabilities. How do you know that that's racist? Maybe he just likes to pick on retards. Okay. Isaiah Myers Crothers, of course, he's got a hyphenated name. The black student told the Arizona Republic that he was stunned and saddened when he learned he was stunned and saddened. Yeah, a developmentally disabled person said, I'm stunned and saddened. Okay. When he learned the Coyotes earlier this month had selected Mitchell Miller, with whom he grew up in Sylvania, Ohio. 4 years ago, Miller admitted to an Ohio juvenile court to bullying Myers Crothers, who was tricked into licking a candy push pop that Miller and another boy had wiped in a bathroom urinal. Well, that is disgusting, but it's candy. Yeah. Myers Crothers had to be tested for hepatitis, HIV, and STDs, but the test came back negative, according to a police report. Well, that's a good thing. Miller's Crothers, also 18, now lives in Detroit, said Miller's had taunted him 4 years, constantly calling him Brownie, and, wait for it, you knew it was coming, in quotes, the N-word. I'm going to have to do another episode on this because I despise that phrase. Maybe it's a term. Term is one word, but it's hyphenated, so I guess it is technically one word. I despise that term/phrase, the N-word. I absolutely despise it. And for those of you who are sticking around, you will never hear me use that. You will absolutely never hear me use that. If I am intimating that word, I will say the word nigger. I will not say N-word. because, well, maybe I should say that for a different time. But surface level here, because what is that actually achieving? When I say N word, you know what I'm saying. So it really doesn't serve a purpose other than to resensitize people who are sensitive against that word to that word in the name of empowerment. Got it. Okay. While repeatedly, he called him Brownie and quotes, 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 the N word, while repeatedly hitting him while growing up in the Toledo suburb. Okay, so this went on a lot. And again, this is Myers Carruthers who says this happened. Other students at their junior high confirmed to police that Miller repeatedly used, quotes, the N word in referring to Myers Carruthers. He pretended to be my friend and made me do things I didn't want to do, Myers Carruthers said in a phone interview. In junior high, I got beat up by him. Everyone thinks he's so cool that he gets to go to the NHL, but I don't see how someone can be cool when you pick on someone and bully someone for your entire. Oh, God. Okay. All right. We get it, right? He's playing this up. Now, I'm not saying that maybe this didn't happen to him, but I do have a question for Mr. Myers Carruthers, Mr. Myers or Carruthers or both. So, according to you, this person throughout all of your childhood called you brownie and nigger. Throughout all your childhood. This was, because according to him, this was perpetual, right? Other students at the junior high confirmed that he repeatedly, so, okay. And while repeatedly hitting him, okay, he also abused you, growing up in the Toledo suburb. Okay, so this was perpetual. So let me evaluate your first statement. He pretended to be my friend. Do you not understand what a friend is? Because if somebody is beating on me, and using racially disparaging remarks about me, I would not consider that person a friend. So that smells fishy to me right away. This statement that he made, not that it did or didn't happen. I have no way of knowing that, but this little statement here, because we all know that's the game now, especially when it's a black victim and a white perpetrator. You really have to kind of delve into your victim status and really play the part in order to kind of get something, usually money, right? So he pretended to be my friend and made me do things I didn't want to do. Those two things don't exist together, right? You can't be someone's friend and make them do something they don't want to do. In junior high, I got beat up by him. Again, it's not something a friend would do. Everyone thinks he's so cool. I think now we're getting to the actual sentiment. See, we got through the liberal media mandated victimhood, and now we're getting to how he really feels. Everyone thinks he's so cool that he gets to go to the NHL, but I don't see how someone can be cool when you pick on someone and bully someone your entire life. Well, obviously, you've never been to a comedy show, but this to me sounds like jealousy. This to me sounds like reprisal and timed correctly with the current political atmosphere. Now, my thoughts on this. Obviously, if the team wants to distance themselves from him, they are free to do so. I don't own the team. If the owner of the team says, you know what, we don't want this person representing our team, I completely understand that. However, I do have a problem when it's being coerced by third parties. Third parties being Twitter, third parties being the media, third parties being concerned bleeding heart liberals who don't watch hockey, but are seeing an opportunity to pick up their signs and protest something because they've got nothing better going on. I have a problem with it when it comes from that. But my real problem with this is, and my first question I guess I would ask is who does this help? Who does this help? This whole situation with Mitchell Miller being essentially blacklisted now from a sport that he's apparently very good at. Right, he's at the best school in the nation, and got drafted fourth to an NHL team. So I think it's fair to assume he's pretty good at the sport. Who does this help? Who wins in this? Obviously not him. He can't play hockey anymore, and let alone get a job at this point. Obviously not the little retarded boy. He's still retarded, and he's now been painted as the ultimate victim. Who does this help? Obviously, not the Arizona Coyotes hockey team. They've just lost out on a really good player. Obviously, not North Dakota hockey team. They've lost out on a really good player. The only people who win in this are virtue signaling liberals who have nothing to do with this. It's some kind of victory that they get to kind of, it's revenge, some kind of reprisal that they get to feel like, yes, we took someone else down. But no one wins in this. And to me, this serves a completely contrarian purpose. Because again, words of the NHL owner of the Coyotes, who I believe is Hispanic and the first Hispanic to own a team, because everything is monumentalized, regardless of how trivial. Let's see. Arizona Coyotes last month boasted about having their chief executive to a committee pledged to stop racism. Question: if you take a kid who has a sketchy past, for sure, who has probably done some things that were racially motivated, for sure, and you deprive him of what is conceivably his lifetime dream, do you think you stopped racism? Do you think Mitchell Miller is less racist now that you've essentially robbed his ability to play hockey from him? Do you think he's less racist now that good luck on campus, Mitchell? Right? Because he can still go to school there. Well, good luck there. Good luck with your professors. Do you think this is going to make that his life is essentially ruined for something he did 4 years ago? Not excusing what he did, by the way. You have to say this, right? Because people, so you're saying it's okay? It's almost unconscionable how stupid that question is. But no, I'm not saying it's okay. But I am saying that bullying happens. I am saying that people make stupid mistakes when they're young. Turns out. And a lot of people make stupid mistakes when they get older. Bill Maher. But do you think that this young man is less racist now? That he's essentially being crucified for something he did 4 years ago? How do you know that he hasn't turned the corner? How do you know that he didn't have a personal moment where he understood that this was wrong and was maybe too embarrassed to kind of ask for forgiveness from this guy? He just figured out, just leave it alone because I don't want to pick at the scab. Can't heal that way. How do you know none of this happened? We don't. But a third party is going to make an assumption about him. So do you think he's less racist now than before? I think there is a huge missed opportunity here. I would have rather seen him get signed to this team. If you want to call him out for what he did 4 years ago, fine. Absolutely. If you want to call him out for that, absolutely call him out for that. Fine. But don't persecute him for it. Allow him to redeem himself. And this is going back to, we're kind of talking about apologies earlier. I can't stand when people apologize to the left because it's usually the left. It's almost exclusively the left that demands apologies from people. And every time people apologize, I'm infuriated by it. I'm actually past that point now. I just kind of lose respect for the person apologizing because why can't you see that this is really about domination? It's about you humiliating yourself and them still not accepting your apology. It's about them trying to break you. So, in a world, there used to be a world where you could apologize and then the offended party would give you an opportunity to redeem yourself, an opportunity for redemption, but we don't live in that age anymore. The apology is you basically admitting in the court of public opinion you're taking the plea deal. That's what an apology is now. It is a plea deal for the court of public opinion. It's, yep, I said this, I did this. And that's all they wanted to hear. Aha, knew it, you're a racist. Fuck you, you're terrible. I'm going to burn your life down. So I would have rather seen him get signed and make restitution, make an effort. This could have been a great story where this young man gets signed. They ask him about this story and he says, yeah, this was a part of my life. Maybe they do an interview side by side where he apologizes to him. You could do it on camera, right? Because the media needs that. Maybe a situation where he pays, because if he's getting drafted, he's going to make some money. Maybe he becomes a sponsor of a special needs school. Maybe he donates to research for whatever that person's ailment is in his name. Maybe he scores him some season tickets. Maybe he even, uh, a certain crowd will like this. Maybe he even cuts him a check, right? Maybe he even says, you know what, for pain and suffering, boom. I would not have liked that because I think you open yourself up to, well, pain and suffering is not over until I say it's over. So, but you missed an opportunity here. And that story would have been monumentally better than this one that I'm reading right now about a young man who made a stupid decision when he was 14 years old, who now his life is essentially over. Um, and this is all being done. And I think this is one of the things that really irritates me about this is it's being done for the wrong reason. It's being masqueraded as racial justice or social justice, right? The funny thing about justice is it doesn't need a qualifier. Justice is justice. When you put a qualifier on it, that's when it stops being justice because now you're skewing it to a specific agenda. And once you've skewn it, it's no longer justice. It's no longer just. So this whole thing was done. This whole story was blown up just to satisfy the liberal mob. That's the only people who feel good at the end of this. The liberal, hateful mob that loves cancel culture, that wants to see people's lives ruined because it makes their shitty life just a little bit better. Right? It's kind of like the wacky races for anybody who watched that. I used to watch that shit on Boomerang on Cartoon Network, but on Cartoon Network and then Boomerang. But for those of you who don't know, Wacky Races was just a bunch of old time cartoon characters. There was Peter Perfect, Penelope Pitstop. There was a bunch of people, Ant Hill Mob. There were a bunch of people, and they were the whole show was about racing. They all had race cars, and they would all race. And it was kind of like a cartoon version of NASCAR. Honestly, is the best way to put it. But there was one racer who never tried to win. There was one racer who never tried to win. It was Dick Dastardly. And Muttley, his dog Muttley. Dick Dastardly never tried to win. The only thing Dick Dastardly did was try to sabotage everybody else. And that's who these people are in the race of life to me. These people are Dick Dastardly. They're not actually worried about winning the race. They just want to make sure you don't. And that's why this was a huge missed opportunity in my opinion. The story of redemption of a person seeing the error in their ways, especially when this error was made, I'll say it again, at the age of 14, which we've all been. And think about how you were at age 14. Did you do some stupid shit? Did you say some stupid shit? Yep. So this kind of sanctimonious behavior where you act like you were never, no liberal has an anus. None of them shit, right? They've lived perfect lives. They've never been in any kind of compromised position or any kind of compromising situation or done things that they're not proud of, right? Well, you've taken a young man, he's 18. You've essentially nailed him to the cross of stupid shit he did at age 14. Again, not excusing the shit he did. It was dumb, it was mean-spirited. But it happens. It happens. And robbing him of his ability to grow as a person. Because now, after this article comes out, imagine he comes out and he's like, yeah, I've done this wrong and now I want to make amends. Nobody's going to buy it. Nobody's going to buy it. The court of public opinion, once again, is going to say, no, you're just trying to get back in the NHL. Screw you. So now he can't ever make amends. See, that's the thing that the left really hasn't understood in all of this is when you rob people of their ability to reconcile, when you rob people of their ability to be redeemed from what they do, you actually push them further to that which you accuse them of. Right? When you go around saying every white person is a racist, regardless of the fact that you are supremely ignorant of these people, you don't know every single one of these people, but you're trying to tell them how they are because you have a worldview that must be right. And you continuously berate them on these things, and you continuously assert these false claims. And then you take it a step further as to negatively impact their life, be it their career, be it their standing in the community, be it their anything, any kind of negative way where you start to negatively impact your life. Understand that every time you do that, you push them closer to that which you accuse them of. Because at a certain point, it's like, well, you know what? If you're going to call me this, then I'll just be it. Right? The irony is, with black folk accusing white people of that, the irony of that is this is a lesson that black folks should know very well, because that's the excuse they use for, that some of these people use for turning to crime. It's like, well, you treat me like a criminal, so I might as well be that. Ah, yes, that. Now apply it the other way. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I got for you today. Unfortunately, it's not a happy story, man. It's not a happy story, but it's something we need to talk about, because again, I think we need to get to a point where, circling back to Bill Maher, where he said, we have to learn to live together. Well, if we're going to learn to live together, we have to actually learn to reconcile. We have to actually learn to let people redeem themselves. That's part of the reason why we can't live together, Bill Maher. That's part of the reason why we're so divided, is because once someone calls you something, that's all you are at that point moving forward. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I got for you today. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Planet Hog, and I will get up with you tomorrow. So until then, peace.